Hey everyone, Sam here, otherwise known as FPL Pricey, and in today's video, I'll be looking at my team selection for Game Week 33, which is probably the biggest double remaining of the FPL season, including whether or not I want to use my triple captaincy in Game Week 33, running through all of the key topics as well, of course, in the process. Right then, so let's start off with a wrap-up of Game Week 32, which was, of course, another double game week, and I chose to bench boost in this game week. I've talked about it a little bit already. I was pretty triggered by the fact that it went very, very poorly. Last-minute clean sheet wipeout for Milenkovic against Everton. Asensio with 2 missed penalties, only the 4th time that's ever happened in the Premier League in one game. Against my own club, Southampton, as well, who have done me no favours this year. Captain Palmer against them, blanked. Captain Mateta against them, blanked. And now this as well. Very, very poor from Southampton to let me down, not only in that way, but also just being an awful, awful Premier League team as well all season long. Just constant misery. Other than that, also Leicester, who hadn't scored in 6, 7, 8 game weeks, obviously go and score twice against Brighton. So very, very miserable, but I've already talked about all of that. Let's focus on what happened last night in the Crystal Palace-Newcastle game, or should I say Newcastle at home to Palace. Now, Newcastle have been phenomenal recently. I think we all expected another good game last night. We thought it'd be competitive. Palace have been good as well recently. But Newcastle just blew them away. And I think from the second that Eze missed the penalty, Newcastle, there was just no looking back. They just kept putting pressure on them and they got their rewards as well. And it's been consistently like this for quite a while now. So although the fixtures maybe don't look amazing on paper, I'm pretty keen on holding on to Newcastle assets just because of the form that they're in. And I don't think the fixtures are bad enough that they're a must sell either. So looking at players like Isak and Murphy in particular, those fixtures against Aston Villa, I think it's Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, maybe less so in the last 4 or 5 game weeks. I think it's absolutely fine for attacking returns. So I don't think they're a must sell by any means. Whereas Crystal Palace, on the other hand, who have just had a very poor double game week against Man City and Newcastle, admittedly not an easy one, let's be fair, but Munoz to come away from the double with -1 is crazy. Sarr to get just an assist. Eze obviously was looking good and then missed a penalty. And Mateta to get 2 one-pointers across the double game week. It's very poor overall. So we didn't really get a lot of bang for our buck from Crystal Palace. They do have another double game week in Game Week 33. So it's quite hard to get rid of them now if you've already got them and you're not looking at free hitting or you don't have many free transfers left. But the fixtures also don't look great after Game Week 33 is out the way either. They've got the blank in 34. I'll be free hitting, so I'm not too bothered about that. But afterwards, the fixtures, the back 4 for the rest of the season don't look fantastic either. So perhaps there's an argument to maybe look at moving away from them. Maybe, possibly not now, and I think it's quite difficult to do so with another double game week, but it's Bournemouth at home, Arsenal away. One of those is a very difficult fixture, Arsenal away in particular, and that's just before their FA Cup semi-final. So could they possibly rotate against Arsenal? Yeah, definitely possible. Against Bournemouth, they're definitely going to go all guns blazing again, but with the form they're in, and Bournemouth being a good Premier League side as well, I'm not confident that they get big points. So although it's a double game week, I'm less bullish on them than I was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. That being said, I'm tripled up. It's going to be hard to move away from any of them this game week because there are other moves I need to make. And I've only got 1 free transfer to do so. Now, as we wrap up this section, Arsenal clean sheet wipeout, I felt a little bit aggrieved by that because they've kind of proven in the Champions League what a defence they are to keep Real Madrid at bay for 2 full matches. Obviously, Real Madrid did score 1 in the end, but to only concede 1 across 180 minutes, including at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid in the quarterfinal of the Champions League, is ridiculously impressive. They are such a good defence statistically, and the last 2 game weeks, they've had clean sheet wipeouts against Brentford and was it Everton the week before that from a softish penalty. So I feel a little bit aggrieved not to get more from them in the last 2 weeks, but I think it's worth holding on to them. And I do think that clean sheets should at least come fairly soon, given the underlying data. So 85 points all out for me. It was a failure of a bench boost, just 7 points from that. And I've only got one free transfer to deal with it. I do, however, have my triple captain available, and I've got my free hit for 34 as well. So let me know what you scored. A lot of you, especially if you're on bench boost or triple captain DZAC, will be better than me. So do let me know in the comments below whether or not you beat me in game week 32. So one of the key questions for me this game week is whether or not I want to activate the triple captaincy chip. And if so, who is the best captain this week, full stop? So this section will hopefully be relevant to you if you're debating who your preferred captaincy option is as well. Now, a quick word on a couple of other players before we move on to MARMOUSH and SAKA, who I do believe will be the most popular captain choices for game week 33. I wanted to talk about KDB very quickly. Now, De Bruyne has gotten good minutes in the last 2 game weeks. He is also saying that he's now playing without pain. So I think that expected minutes are going to be much better than they were earlier on in the season or for the majority of the year. But he does go down injured a lot. And there's always that chance that Pep rotates a player of his age. It wouldn't be surprising to me if in one of the matches he played 30 and the other he got 80 plus, which might not be that bad actually, but not only do I want a player for this game week, but I also need to rely on them in game week 35, 36, 37, 38, all the way through to the end of the season as well. And I just don't have enough confidence that KDB is going to get consistently very good minutes across the rest of the season for me to want to use a free transfer on him, because if that's then a mistake, it's another free transfer to get rid of him later on in the year. And I've got very limited free transfers as it is. I've got Asensio to deal with potentially. I've got Crystal Palace to deal with. I've also potentially got Newcastle to deal with if I wanted to get rid of those assets. So to add KDB as another minutes risk into that mix, I'm not so sure it's a great idea for me. If you're on a free hit, I think he's a great option. Or if you've got a load of free transfers in the bank and you wanted to do something a little bit wild, a little bit differential, KDB for game week 33 in particular does look like it makes a lot of sense. However, in my scenario, probably not so much because it will cost me later down the line, most likely. Now, looking elsewhere, Salah is being talked about a little bit because of the fixture. It's a single game week, so the upside is maybe a little bit more limited, but it is also against Leicester. So it's a great fixture. You would expect very good minutes, and although Salah hasn't been in the best form as of late, he does still usually find a way to get decent points, and Leicester is a golden opportunity to do so. I would not be surprised if that's a double-digit haul whatsoever. And again, knowing Salah, if he gets a goal, it's probably 2 or 3 bonus as well. So the upside is still there, but of course you won't have the benefit of a second match with Salah. So perhaps the upside is a little bit more limited. I don't hate it as a move, but I think if you want to really chase that ceiling, a double game weeker, if you can find the right player with high expected minutes, there is upside there ahead of Salah. So I don't dislike it, but for me, especially in my position where I'm chasing rank, I need to go for the players with the highest possible ceiling. So I'm willing to take a bit more of a gamble on expected minutes in that second match. So on to MARMOUSH and SAKA, who I do believe will be the most popular too. I think running into this game week, I thought SAKA would be the most popular one. And given that he's been injured and coming back from injury and building up the minutes, obviously started both of the Champions League games, I expected most of the narrative to be around SAKA being the right captaincy choice, a must-buy, great data, great fixtures, all of that. But it hasn't really transpired that way at the moment as far as I can see. I think there are still doubts circulating as to whether or not he's going to get good minutes across the double, whether he could even be rested in one of the matches and come off the bench. And of course, he did play in the midweek against Real Madrid as well. So arguably, he might have naturally been rotated against Ipswich anyway. Whereas MARMOUSH, on the other hand, hasn't had a match in the midweek this week, so he will be more rested. His expected minutes, you would think, are higher than Saka's, and I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that. He's been playing well, so I don't expect rotation. He's also filling in up front for Haaland, who is still out for a relatively long time, so I don't think there's any doubt over his starting spot in their best 11. So I would personally put his expected minutes at around about 150 to up to 180. So we're looking at 2 starts, we're looking at 90 minutes and maybe 60 plus in another. The only reason that I say possibly 60 plus in the second one is because they then have the FA Cup semi-final in the midweek after game week 33. So I do just wonder if Man City take players off a little bit early if they can afford to do so, just to make sure that they're fresh for what is now a very big FA Cup semi-final. If they want to come away with any silverware at all this season, they are definitely going to throw their weight at the semi-final. But they're still chasing Champions League. They still need to secure that position. So I think Marmoush's minutes are going to be very good. The data's still good, 0.61 XGI per 90. And the fixtures aren't blockbuster, but they're not bad. Everton away, XGC per 90 of 1.2 across the season is actually very good. And then Aston Villa, who again have had a very busy schedule at the moment, I could be convinced into saying that that's actually a pretty good fixture for Man City at the Etihad. Their XGC across the season is 1.3, which is actually pretty good. But Aston Villa don't keep many clean sheets, and Man City are really starting to tick in attack now. So I think personally that it's not a bad double by any means. And if Marmoush can get the expected minutes of 150 plus, I think captaincy does make a lot of sense, and potentially triple captaincy as well could also be on the table. Now, despite all of that, I still actually really like Saka as an option this game week. Now, the data is a little bit better. He's a midfielder as well, which usually gets ignored, but triple captaincy on a midfielder, for me anyway, fills me with a little bit more confidence because you've got the potential for a clean sheet point. You've got the extra point for the goal as well. Saka is also definitely on penalties. Marmoush, we're assuming is, but we don't know for sure at this point in time. And Saka's set piece delivery is phenomenal as well. So he's got loads of different angles to points. Marmoush does as well, but I think I've just got a slightly lower bar of confidence on whether he gets the penalties, whether he takes all the free kicks, things like that. With Saka, I think it's much more nailed on that he's got those things if he's on the pitch. I think you could also argue that Saka's double is actually much nicer than Man City's. They've got Ipswich away from home, whose XGC per 90 across the season is the second worst in the league at over 2 XG per 90. That's very, very low. And then also Crystal Palace at home, 1.3 XGC per 90, again, is pretty good, but Palace are kind of dropping off now. And a bit like Man City, they've got a huge semi-final in the FA Cup to contest with in the midweek after game week 33. So I'm a little bit suspicious that they might rotate in that Arsenal fixture. They've not got much to fight for in the league at this stage. They've got a very, very outside shot of making Europe. And by that point in time, they might have almost no hope. So will they maybe prioritise the FA Cup semi-final, a match which they can absolutely win and take them to a historic final? I think so, probably. So I can see a little bit of rotation coming in against Arsenal there. Arsenal will definitely still be taking the league seriously. They need to secure Champions League. They won't have given up on the league, although I think most of us now have accepted that Liverpool will win it. Arteta and Arsenal won't be thinking in that way because that's just unprofessional. So I think that they will be throwing their weight behind Ipswich and Crystal Palace. The expected minutes for Saka are probably a bit lower, and that's the gamble here. It's if I want to triple captain him or if I just wanted to captain him, it would be a little bit of a risk in terms of will I get 2 starts out of him? I've put his expected minutes at somewhere around 100 to 150. So I think he'll get more than 90. So he's still effectively a double game week player. He'll get 2 matches worth of appearance points as well. So that's always handy. But do I think he'll start twice? Well, I think if I had to put my neck on the line right now, I actually think he does start twice. And that is a risk to say that. And it's definitely not something I'm fully confident on. But I think that he's now fit enough, and he was brought off around 70 odd minutes against Real Madrid as well when the game was relatively comfortable. I think they brought him off thinking, well, you know what, we need him for the league over the weekend. So I think personally he probably does start against Ipswich and then probably also against Palace, barring any sort of setback with an injury. The problem is they've got Nwaneri on the bench as well, and he is a very good option for Arsenal. He's played very well. So I don't think Saka gets a full 90 necessarily in either match, but I can see a universe in which he gets around about 150 minutes. And if he does, I think that is absolutely fine. If he gets 2 matches worth of 75 or 190, 160, or some sort of combination of the two, I think he's still absolutely fine as a captaincy candidate. The data is really good. We know that he's on set pieces and penalties. There's just kind of something that I like about captaining Saka. I like the idea of it. I like him as a player a lot. And I do think that he is still a very good option against someone like a Marmoush. Now, there is also a little bit of I'm chasing rank and I need to be differential at times. And because not too many people are captaining Saka that I can see at the moment, I'm willing to maybe take that gamble on the expected minutes where others might not be, in the hope that I can cash in on better than expected minutes and therefore also a good chance of a haul against Ipswich and Crystal Palace. If most of the crowd go with Marmoush, I will still at least own him, but Saka would give me more upside in terms of effective ownership. And maybe that gives me the edge over others because I am chasing rank. I think I'm about 40 to 45 points outside of the top 100k at the moment. So I need to take a couple of calculated gambles. And Saka, we know he's a fantastic player. The only gamble here is on whether or not he gets the minutes. And I think there's still a chance he gets good enough minutes to make this pay off. So I think for me personally, I don't even own him yet. I need to transfer him in. But if I do, I think Saka is probably the way that I'm leaning right now. Okay, then. So on to my actual team selection going into game week 33. I've only got the one free transfer and I have penciled in that move for Saka from Parma. For free, that would be my one move. And I would be placing the armband on him as well. So I'd be looking at potentially triple captaining him. I haven't locked that in yet, so it's not active, but at time of recording I am thinking that I'm going to go for it, triple captain Saka, bring him in for Parma, and that will probably be my one move at the moment. Now I am maybe toying around with the idea of taking out Asensio straight away, calling it a mistake and just going straight to Rodgers. But looking at moves in a few game weeks time, after game week 34 the free hit is out of the way, I don't know if I'm going to need that Villa player anyway. We'll know whether or not they've got the FA Cup final as well by that point. If they don't, they won't have the double game week in 36. And even if they did have the FA Cup final, we haven't got that as a guarantee that they'll get a double game week. So is it worth moving across to Rodgers when I don't even know that I'm going to want him definitely come game week 35? So it would be a hit just for this one game week, with the potential of holding on to him longer term, but definitely a risk there either way. Asensio also didn't start in the Champions League. He could still be on penalties. I don't think it's likely, considering he's missed two, but there's still a chance at least. And I do expect him to start at least one of the two in the double and get minutes off the bench in the other. Also, like I said with Saka, I'll reiterate this, I am chasing rank. I am 285k, so I need to take a couple of risks. And backing someone like an Asensio, who's got very good attacking data, against the crowd favourite, which will be Rodgers, I think is another differential that could set me apart and hopefully gives me a chance of getting lucky. Now, it's fair to say he owes me a little bit after last game week. So I think at the moment I'm going to hold on to him, hope that he starts at least one of the two, maybe even gets both, or at least gets 80 and then 30 across the two. And if he can get a goal or two attacking returns across the double, I think that either matches or potentially beats Rodgers, and it could be that little bit of a differential to set me apart from what is a regular template team at the moment. Otherwise, in my 11, I do have the triple Palace against Bournemouth and Arsenal. I'm not in love with that, and I did briefly consider not moving for Saka, but instead getting rid of Munoz for another third Arsenal defender, giving me a real sword in terms of triple Arsenal defence there. And maybe instead of Saka, I could look at someone like a Rodgers and doubling up on the Aston Villa midfield. Also, Rashford would have been on the table as well. I've decided against that, mainly because I just really wanted to get to Saka. And I think that out of him and Marmoush, he's the one that I want to captain at the moment. And also removing two players for a hit, including a double game weaker like a Munoz, just doesn't quite sit right with me. I think there's a lower chance that that pays off. So I'm going to bite the bullet and just stick with triple Palace. It is still a double game week after all. Munoz and Sarr will get good minutes. Mateta's minutes have been iffy, but you'd think that he still starts both of the games. And if so, there's still a relatively decent chance that at least one of them gets some sort of attacking return or some sort of points. So I don't think any of them are necessarily worth a transfer out right now. At the moment, I'm reluctantly benching Murphy, who, although it's only a single game week away at Aston Villa, the form that he's been in, I'm actually fairly tempted to start him over someone like a Sarr or an Asensio. But again, I think just the fact that they've got double game weeks, the extra minutes, and Murphy does get brought off early a lot. He's in fantastic form. I think he probably does get a return against Villa. But again, I'm just chasing the upside here. And if I can get 180 minutes out of Sarr, or somewhere around about 150 plus, and around about 120 minutes out of Nascenzio, then I think that probably beats 60 to 70 minutes of a Murphy. Although I'm happy enough having him first bench. If there's any sort of injury issues or something, he can just come straight in, and I'm happy enough with that. So overall, I think I'm well padded out for double game week 33. I've not got bench boost anymore, so it will be just my full playing 11. I've got 9 double game weekers, including triple Arsenal, double Man City, triple Palace, and 1 Aston Villa in there. The 2 single game weekers are still strong. Salah away at Leicester and Isak away at Villa, which I do have penciled as a pretty good fixture for Isak at the moment. So overall, I'm happy with the 11. I'm a little bit worried that a lot of bench boosts will be active, and therefore I'll be chasing a little bit. But I might have the advantage of a triple captaincy on someone like a SAKA, possibly a Marmoush. But I think at the moment I'm preferring SAKA right now because I'm going to gamble on the expected minutes. So 1 free transfer, that would probably lock me in for game week 33. Do let me know any of your dilemmas going into the deadline, and I'll try and get back to you before we hit the deadline on Saturday. And of course, good luck for game week 33. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like, hit subscribe, and you won't miss out on any future content. I'll see you next time as we start preparing for game week 34.